Okay, am I doing this great? Am I in the center? Okay. Me. Pretty and witty and wild. Where is the light? Where is the light? Where did I put light? Ah! Light in bag. Better? It's a little dim, isn't it? Dear, little bit better. Hello there, land lovers! Ahoy! Hello and welcome, my dear Oscar modelers, to my small hobby YouTube channel. My name is Tomo, and today we're going to be taking a look at some Revell ships and U-boats. The ships and U-boats that we're going to be taking a look at today are these beauties. On this channel we have covered planes and tanks and cars and motorcycles and helicopters, but never boats and U-boats. Why? Well, because we just didn't have any in the store. Aha, but not anymore! Today's models are just some that I've ordered so far from Revell to see what the fuss is all about, and to keep the people who like boats happy. The majority of model kits that we're going to be reviewing today are older kits that have just been reboxed. Well, some have, some haven't, but you'll see just in just a moment. Revell has a tendency to put older stuff in newer boxes, and that makes you think like, wow, it's something new, but it's really not, which kind of annoys me and probably annoys you guys as well. But nevertheless, they do have a fair amount of assortment of model boats and U-boats in their collection, so I thought it was worthwhile showing you guys what all the fuss is about on these boats. And I also am interested in ordering some Tamiya boats because they also have some very big models, very grand models, and I'm interested to see what those look like compared to Revell's. Here you'll be able to see the list of boats and U-boats that we're going to be taking a look at today, along with the year of release or at least rebox, and the price point for each of the kits, as well as timestamps for all the review videos of each individual model. So now I will just chill a little bit so you can process the information. Woo. Done? Have you memorized everything? Let's jump on in! Behold, the wall of ships and submarines, and a little tugboat. These are all from Revell. They're mainly level 4 ships. Well, some of them are level 3, I believe, which means that they're not meant for the noob. Most of them have like above 100 parts, so that's why level 4. As for the scales of these models, they vary drastically. The two submarines on the bottom are 144th scale. Then we have 1 to 108 scale, the oddball here, little tugboat. And then of course we have 1 to 700 and 1 to 720 and 1 to 570. And this, I think this one is also 1 to 700 scale. But we'll see when we take a look at the box itself. So let's jump on in the boxes and see inside. The first model boat that we're going to be taking a look at is this Battleship Bismarck, very popular model in Revell line of collection. It's a 10700th scale. It's 35 centimeters long. It's almost 36 centimeters long, which is quite substantial. You'll see in just a moment. It's a level 4 model, which means that it has over 100 parts, and it costs 24 euros here in Slovenia. The box itself is this green blue thing, and you can see on the side the finished model, how it's supposed to look. And here we can see that there is no swastika here, which censorship reasons I guess. Anyway, let's take a look at the parts. And here are the parts that you get inside. So we got the main body with some outer fixtures and fittings, and we have the base on which to put it and some other accessories, and of course the little bitty things in the other box. And of course we have the manual and some decals. So let's take a look at individual things very quickly now. So here we have the tub that is comprised of two parts, and it goes together like so. And as you can see, it's a pretty long model. I mean, 36 centimeters. It's not a small model, and it's the casting of the sprues are, for a Revell kit, it's really good. I mean, I must admit that the boats are pretty good. And as you can see, if I hold it just like this together, it really goes together very nicely. I mean, it has no any gaps, like bulging gaps or something like that. It's pretty good. Even the plastic feels fairly decent and solid compared to some newer or some other older kits from Revell. This is of course the deck and some, you know, chimneys and stuff, and every single thing here is pretty well made, pretty well defined and represented. You'll see the close-up shots here, the deck with all the little fittings and side walls of the ship, chimney and all that. The attachment points are even decent on these sprues, to be honest. The main deck, of course, here we see the main deck of the Bismarck. You can see very nice detail all around, and there is no flashing going on. Here the attachment points are a little bit short, but it's not that bad, to be honest. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with this one. So with the kit you get this stand for the ship, and these are the smaller bits that go all around, like this anchor point, this anchor, and all those little small details such as the mast and the antennas and the turrets, well, the guns, not the turrets, well, at least the covering for the guns, the main guns, is pretty well made. I must hand it out to Revell for this one. It's pretty good. There is hardly any flash. There are some annoyances there here and there, but it's really, I'm just nitpicking now. Here we have the decals for the Bismarck. They are pretty substantial. I mean, it's a 1/700 scale, but still they're pretty substantial. You have the little camouflage pattern that you're supposed to put on the side of the ship, but if you're a more advanced builder, I'm probably guessing you'll be able to, you know, paint those in, as well as this little well, it's missing a swastika, but this is supposed to be on the deck of the ship where the anchors meet. Yeah, the swastika is missing, which is, you know, not totally historically accurate, but for censorship reasons, well, I guess, you know, Revell Germany and all that. I'm not condoning the actions of the Third Reich and the Nazis, but still, it's a part of history, and I believe it should be represented as such. But anyway, it's not here. The manual is a little A5 booklet with some pages. When you open it up, you see the basic stuff, the breakdown of screws, and then of course the first portion of the assembly of the ship. So you got the holes that you glue together, and then the bulkheads that go inside. And of course you plop it immediately on the stand, and oddly enough you have the choices here for decal application on this second page, which is kind of strange, but you know, this is like something for the after when you build it. Since the ship has quite a lot of parts, I believe it's over 200. This is a level 4 model, and because of the intricacies of the whole build process, I think that this is not for someone who is just starting out. It might be a little bit too daunting, especially painting the ship, because there's so many small parts that need attention, like this plane for instance, and the lifeboats, and you know, things like that, that probably yeah, maybe a newbie can kind of put it together, but painting it is probably left to a more experienced model builder, because you can see the whole instruction set is very condensed. So you kind of need a little time for your eyes to adjust, and you can see little lifeboats here and there, and how all the things go together. It's quite a substantial manual, and of course black and white depictions of all the colors and the decals. That's it. Right, so the next boat on the agenda is the HMS ARK ROYAL with Tribal class destroyer. This is right off the bat to tell you a reboxed version of the older model because of this. Yes, this is what you get inside, and we'll come back to this just in a moment. But needless to say, this is just a reboxed version. It has 110 parts. It's 34 centimeters long, and the other one is 16 centimeters long. And both of them cost 14.5 euros here in Slovenia. It's a level 4, mainly because of the two builds, the two ships that you have inside. Otherwise, it's probably a level 3. And this is what you get inside. And just looking at it from the bag, I can tell you that is an old ass sprue. When you take a look at the first sprue, it's obvious immediately. Look at that. See, on the end here, it's evidence of older machinery that's making these parts, and it shows all around this little kit. The plastic is a little bit flimsier, and you can see the flashing is present almost everywhere. But yeah, it's an older model. The problem that I have with this kind of advertising and this kind of packaging is that Revell should at least, say this is, older model, or leave it in the older boxes and not try to sell it off as something new in their new improved lineup boxes. It kind of diminishes the box art and the box itself, because you think, wow, this is a totally new thing, but really when you open it up, it's not. So you can see right off the bat, the detail is there, it's present. I mean, it's not like it's detail-less. This is like raised detail in the portholes, and they're pretty simple ships, to be honest. But it's just, a little let down. And here you see the main hull, well, the side of the hull anyway, of the larger ship. It has detail on it, but it's still, the attachment points are awful, the flashing is awful. You probably have to sand a lot of it. And well, if you really like ships, then I guess this is something that you should buy, you could buy. But if you're looking for something more easy and better quality, you're better off buying the other one, the Bismarck. But if you have a Bismarck, then try another manufacturer. So as for the decals, well, we got the flags. Flags are basically not decals, but a sheet of paper that you cut out and you place on the ship itself. And then we have some small decal sheets for the runway, because this is a aircraft carrier nonetheless, sorts. Yeah, so those are just small decals. And because of the new box, you have the new manual, which is kind of crumpled, but that's how it was in the box. We have a colored manual, which is good. So we have basic stuff on the front, the breakdown, and of course the build immediately afterwards. It's much more refined, this build process, because it gives you a better contrast of what to put together and what not. It's not just, it doesn't blend in like on the previous black and white manuals from the era gone by. And it's pretty simple. In fact, I would say that this one is much more simple to put together than the previous one, because it doesn't have that many parts. It's just older, and it requires a little bit more work. This is basically the assembled portion of the ship as it's supposed to be.
and the paint scheme. So that's it. Right, the next boat on the topic is this German Scharnhorst. Scharnhorst, Jesus, I can't pronounce that. Scharnhorst, yeah, Scharnhorst. Ugh, I'm butchering it. Sorry, German-speaking people. But anyway, this is your boat. Well, your boat from your history, anyway. It's a level 4 in a new box. But I do believe that this might again be an older model, just judging by a quick peek at the parts right there. It's a level 4, 100. It has a 122 parts, which is basically similar to the last one we've seen, the ARK Royal. It's a bit of a bigger scale, so 1:570 scale, which is an odd one, and it's of course larger because of that. It costs $17.95 here, and it's in the new box with the new art. So let's take a look at the parts. Parts come in one bag, and here they are. So the hull. The plastic is right off the bat to tell you. The feel of the plastic is much more solid. It almost feels as their new type of plastic, but it's the mold process is a little less refined. So you can see that clearly on the edges of the sprues and the thickness of the molds. So the end points where the sprue contacts with the hull of the ship, which is nasty. That's a really very thick attachment point, which will require a lot of sanding and probably some puttying if you are going to be too eager with a knife or a sprue cutter. Of course, we have some portholes. They're just engraved inside of the hull, and here we have raised detail. These portholes are actually raised detail, which is kind of odd. And of course we have the guns, and I mean just guns, which again, if you take a look at very closely, you can see that they're not that great, to be honest. I mean, they're pretty cheap looking. It's kind of, I see, and you have to do a lot of sanding. If you really want to make this work, you really have to sand or at least scrape off the excess residue from the molding process to make it look presentable. Otherwise it just looks like a toy boat. So these are the things. So, and also the little boat just kind of fell out. Take a closer look at this boat. It's a little bitty boat. Yay! So we have more sprues with, see, the horrible flashing around the rudders. And when the small details, look at those big anchor points or anchors. Now this is basically, this is just the display stand, I believe, or the display sign. No, this doesn't actually go to the ship. That would be really weird. Anyway, the deck, or at least one part of the deck, and then the cranes and stuff for the plane. We got some more stuff here, the chimneys, and this little imperfection. This is really horrible. Oh my god, this is really deformed. Oh my god. See, these two parts should be mirror identical to each other, but this one is okay and this one is horrible. Look at what, oh my god. I'm gonna have to replace this. Calling Revell again. It's gonna take another 4 weeks. And then we have the propellers. Propel this craft forward in the water. Got some other stuff here in the plane. Little. Oh, this one is broken. Might as well be broken because I have to replace the whole one anyway. So I'll make a note. And then we have this other big portion, which is the main hull with all the mounting for the guns and the massive chains with anchors already attached, which again, look at that. See on the edge here, ugh, that's not good. But you know, this is still a hobby, so even though I'm criticizing this older model, it's a hobby. I mean, that's why we have so many tools and equipment to deal with this stuff. See here again. So really, take my ranting with a bit of a grain of salt. It's not that really bad, but it does require more work than your typical newer models do. So that's it. Well, the decals on this model are even simpler. So we get the basic paper flags here, and the smallest decal sheet so far. So this is basically all the decals for the ship. Just the German crosses, nothing else. So with the new box come new manuals. I want to say responsibilities, but that's clearly not the case. So yeah, the manual, colored manual, and this is actually not a computer generated manual. This is really just an old ass printout, just sketched in a new way. This is just, wow. They didn't even bother making a computer generated graphic. See, those are basically photocopied. Those are photocopied older manuals in just kind of remastered in new techniques. It kind of works. It looks like a little comic book. Kind of looks like a comic book, yeah. But it's, oh my God, Revell, how far have you fallen? How far have you fallen? Okay, so yeah, and of course on the back is the color scheme for the ship. So moving along. All right, so here we have Petr Velikiy, Peter Big, the Big Peter, Peter der Große. Yeah, so another ship from Revell, this time in a scale 1 to 700. This one I think has the most parts. It has 484 parts, which is a level 5 in their book, and it's pretty big. So it's 36 centimeters. That's not that small. That's not that significant. It's basically probably as big as the box, which begs the question: is this an old one or a new one? So let's find out. Oh, by the way, it costs it costs like 34 euros or 35 euros here in Slovenia, but you can of course get it cheaper or more depending on where you live. So let's open it up. We are presented in one big bag in which every single thing is packed very loosely, which you know, I'm not a fan, but I do believe that this is pretty new. It looks like someone else made this, but let's take a look, shall we? Okay, when you open the box and take out the screws from the bag, you are pretty pleasantly surprised at the contents. The ship is the model seems very new, and the plastic feels very firm and solid and pretty high quality. It has a little texture feel on the surface here, and you can see that little portholes are indented. So they're molded in. They're not. There's no surface detail apart from this little line here, this ledge, and the surface on the bottom portion of the ship is flat. That is because it is meant to be displayed on a diorama. So like it's supposed to be like this on the surface of the water. So if you want to make this ship come alive, you should build your Atlantic basin for this model, which make it so much more appealing. Then we have a lot of sprues, a lot of small detail, which is it's almost as good as the first one. It's not as good, but it's almost as good. It's like there have been attempts at making this a better mold process, but there still have some kinks in it. So here we have, sorry for the out of focus. So here we have, I think this is the chimney. or at least a part of it. The attachment points are okay. They're not great, but they're okay. They're far enough so that you can come with the snippers and take off the bit that you need. And the detail is okay. Here on the smaller pieces, like here, you can see that the quality seems to a little bit of lack on certain pieces, but it's not as bad as the previous two model kits that we've reviewed. Here we have the arsenal, the rockets. See all the little flashing around these things, which I don't know what actually they are, but you know, they're things. It's a pretty well, the helicopter. Oh, those are the blades for the helicopter. I didn't really realize that. So we got a little helicopter to assemble. Oh, look at that, and the tail as well. Yeah, see, the tail is a little bit flash forward. That's a totally different meaning. Anyway, little boats. We have, well, two smaller sprues. I think that, yeah, these are the identical ones. So moving along, we have more. Oh shoot! I almost killed this one. Anyway, we have some very delicate pieces, as you can see. You have to be very careful how you handle this, otherwise it can get broken. So you have to be extra careful here. Here we have this. I think this is a radar. Nice texture for surface. And the last bigger sprue that contains the majority of the hull, actually the hull, the deck, sorry, the deck of the ship, with the little opening for the rockets. Oh, look at that, so many rockets. Missile cruise carrier. And I think this is a radar plate, this little circle thingy. And the bridge for the captain. Captain, we have a problem in the engine bay 4. Anyway, here we have the manual, but before that we'll take a look at the decals. Okay, these are the Russian decals for the model, for the little Peter. They're not that, I mean okay, they're quality decals, but there's not many of them. So, and of course the manual, which is in this A4 paper type of booklet. I'll just skip ahead a little bit. So here we have the first steps of the assembly. You can see clearly, nicely presented, displayed for your viewing pleasure. All the little things that how it goes together, how it's very intricate. So yeah, this one probably is a level 5, just to the sheer fact of that there's so much detail that you have to take care of, and so small intricate pieces that need to be glued together in order to make the ship come alive. And then of course painting it and potentially weathering it correctly and all that. So this is probably really not a level less than 5. I think that's pretty on the mark. The little helicopter. And of course the paint scheme for the little ship. And yeah, here's as well. So let's move on to the next one. Here we have a little oddball of the bunch. It's oddball because of the scale. It's a 1:108 scale. It's a Harbour Tug Boat. This one is old. I know for a fact that this one is a pretty old model, because I remember it as a kid when I was a small one. So I'm expecting that this is, old. So, me mateys, this is really red. As you can see, it's not that bright. The camera is kind of taking a little bit leeway with the color. But it's much more darker than it's shown here on the camera. But it is old. It shows really old. In fact, you can see on the bottom there's a stamp, 1979. Yeah, That's old. So way back in the day. So we have the tub, which is one piece, and some ropes that hang from the boat, and the netting on the back. I'm gonna be very generous here, but I think that it looks okay for a 30 plus old model. This is really old, so it looks kind of okay. Then we have the sides for the ship and some posts to which you where you anchor it or tug it. I don't think that's actually an expression. Anyway, we have some ladders and some lifeboats here, of course, with a thing hanging around. And the plastic is it's old plastic. You can feel it. It's very shiny, very glossy, and thick plastic. So we have the cockpit, or not the cockpit, the quarters, living quarters, and the captain's nest. And then we have the deck, chimney. I mean, the detail is for like a 1970 model. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty good. And the stands, nothing, just the stands, and we get the deck here with some ropes, and these are really good. I like this kind of stuff. I mean, it's really probably very hard to paint this very well anyway. Or not, it depends. If you have a very fine brush, you can probably get away with making this look alive. Or, in instance, you can kind of sand this thing out and then just put your own rope there. That's another way of tackling it. And we got the propeller and some. See, these are kind of sad because they're like meshes, and some of them are full. Most of them are full, but then some of them are like not full. So that could be attended a little bit with more detail. And then we have the rudder, this crew propeller, and a little lifeboat here. And we get some fishermen, or tugboatmen, not fishermen, tugboatsmen. This one has apparently a hole in its stomach. Yeah. Well, again, this is an old model, so I'll forgive it. Right. That's basically it. Lucky, number 11. That's all that is. The old-fashioned manual. In multiple languages, of course. Multiculti. The assembly portion is pretty straightforward, as you can see. Nothing that scary. It goes together probably very quickly. And this probably is not a level, what? Well, this actually is a level 3. I didn't even notice. This is a level 3. Yeah, this I would agree. This is pretty simple. This could be tackled by a novice because it's really not that difficult. I mean, it's just a couple of pieces, and they're big pieces. You can't really mess a lot of stuff up. To make it look good, it's probably gonna take a little bit more work. But if you just want to build something, boat, it's probably okay. Yeah, pretty straightforward. And the strings here, as it says, it's not included, so you can either extend a little piece of sprue or use MIG's elastic wires. So, yeah, moving along. And finally we come to the 2 submarines. Oh yes, for those of you who have been aching to see the submarines, well, now you've come to your turn, unless you've skipped forward to the time frame that I've specified, because I'm so nice. This is a submarine, yeah, German U-Boat type, what's this, 21, with interior, and you can see it clearly what it's supposed to have. All the machinery with the torpedoes and bunk beds and batteries. These are lead acid batteries, they're not lithium ion like today. So this was a beast of a boat. It's a 100 and 144th scale, so 1 to 144 scale. It's 24 euros here in Slovenia, and it's 53.1 centimeters long. It's a level 4, mainly because of the interior stuff, because there's so many pieces. And just looking from the bag right behind me, I can say that it's not the newest one, but it's not the oldest as well. So it should be okay. So let's take a look, shall we? And here we have the first sprue. It's the deck of the submarine as well, with some fins, and I think this is the support that holds the submarine in place on the stand. The plastic is a little thin. I'm not gonna kid you. It's a little thin. It feels a little thin, a little flimsy, but it's good. Yeah, it's actually very good. I mean, apart from certain things that should be better, it's pretty good. The detail is nice. It's clearly defined. The attachment points are relatively okay. I mean, on certain pieces, like here, should be a little better, but it's not that bad. And even the propellers that propel the craft forward are very well made. I kid you not, they are very well made. So, bravo. And of course we have the main body of the submarine, which is, wow, it's pretty long, look at that. I'll go slower so you can see the whole detail. This is one side. You can see all the little vents and crevasses, things here. So you can see a lot of detail. Surface detail is pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty. This little hole is a little bit off keel. This is probably an accident. So yeah, it's not perfect. So if I zoom out, you can see the two halves. They're basically the same, of course, because it's a submarine, and there's a hole here. Oops, hole here to represent the interior guts of submarine. All right, so the other pieces that you get are in the separate bag, and they're basically internal parts. You have the bulkhead dividers here for the submarine, and interior pieces are not bad. They're not bad, guys. I mean, this is look at that. The instruments, well, the things on the top are still very clearly defined. I know for a fact that these things stick out much further out than they're depicted here. Probably. I mean, even on this scale, there should be a little bit more depth to the instrument panels, or to the instruments, or the consoles, or whatever you might call them. But it's okay. It's again nitpicking a little bit. But it's not bad at all. You see the two engine halves here, the diesel engines, massive beasts. German engineering, y'all. And then we have the other one, which has some arsenal, some torpedoes, nicely stacked one on top of the other. A 3 stack of torpedoes. And some holes through which torpedoes are laid through. And some more bulkhead and some more thingies that I don't know what they are. Again, some raised detail here. And some floors. Yeah, I mean, the detail is okay. It's actually very good. I'm pleasantly surprised. So I would recommend this one to just anyone, because this is just nice. And the batteries, the lead acid batteries, which are just little blocks here. Yeah, so that's it. Look at that. Look at that. The decals for the submarine. They're very colorful. That's nice. And the detail is pretty good. See all the little valves you have to place down. You know, you could kind of color them, but you know, you can also just plop them on with some decal solution and be done with it. And the gauges and all the little signs and depth meters, how low it's sinking in the water, how low it's sitting in the water, not sinking. German flag without the swastika. Again, yeah, the decals are pretty good. Look at that, look at that. Look, they look like doors, like those fashion doors. And of course you get some flags on the paper, just cut out and make them. The instructions are old-fashioned ones, black and white, small A5 paper, which we will open quickly here. And we begin with level 1, well, level 1, number 1, and then go forwards, building as we go. Here we see both sides. I'll just take you a little bit further out so you can see the whole thing. Yeah, pretty good. Again, it's a little bit compact. You have to kind of make sure that your eyes are focused on one particular image at a time, otherwise it's just what? But they're still fairly clearly defined. And of course the paint scheme and the decals and the threads which are not included. Okay, last submarine. Alright, boys and girls, this is the last one, the German U-Boat type 7C-41, the Atlantic version. This is also a fairly older kit, but not as old as the ship we've seen, the HMS ARK ROYAL. And the screws are fairly decent. Actually, they're pretty good, to be honest. 1 to 144 scale, costs 24 euros, just like the previous one, and it's, I think, the same size. Well, it's actually a little smaller than the previous one, 46.7 centimeters, and the one was 53.1. So it's a fair bit smaller. So let's just take a look, shall we? So upon opening this box and taking the things out of the first bag, they're separated in two bags, so that's good. Yeah, like I've had my suspicion, it's pretty good. Look at that. The two holes go together like snap pretty well. There's no gaps, well, not huge ones. There's no gaps actually. There's just a little bit of flash here on the front, but it goes together pretty well. If you look down the hole, yeah, it's pretty straight. So that's a big plus. There is surface detail, pretty substantial surface detail on the front nose, port and rear, port and aft. Oh, what is it called? Kind of get my terminologies wrong, but you know, you got stuff here. There's detail. There's a good fair detail on just the body itself. So if I pan you through the hole from the back to the front, you'll see what I'm talking about. So here we go. So here we have the stuff, the rest, and you can clearly see when was this made. So 2006. It's pretty good. It's stamped on. So it's not a bad model kit from 2006. It's okay. It's not as great as the previous one because you can see clearly on the little fences here that go around the ship, well, the submarine, that there is flash present, and it's a little annoying, but it's not that terribly annoying. So let's move along here. You can see there is some things to be, you know, more that need to be attended to, like this gun here, the sides. So the other piece, we got also very cool stuff here. Propellers. See, the propellers here are not as well made as the previous one. There's flash, but it's still presentable. I mean, it's not bad at all. Far from it. Little hatch. So, and the anchor. Yeah. It's pretty good. So yeah, that's it. Let's take a look at the decals. So again, you get one small piece of decal sheet of paper, which is really glossy, shines like crazy. And here you can see all the things that you get. So it's not a lot. This kind of stripes, and again, the flag without the swastika and the signs. Nothing really major. And the last manual, A4, black and white. See the instructions, nice and clear. They're not as compact as the previous one. They're much more open, so you can clearly see where goes where, what goes where, not where goes what. Yeah, so your eyes don't have to kind of jump all around the pages. They're honest. Here maybe they're a little bit condensed again, but it's not that bad because it's very clearly defined. It's not horrendous or anything. And the last 2 pages, see the finished product with the markings and colors. It's a shame it's in the black and white because you really just, you know, it's great, but you get the idea. So yeah, that's it. Back to me.
Alright, so that was the review portion done. Now just a couple of things to say. What would I recommend to you guys? Which kits would I buy if I would build one? Well, this little Type 7C submarine from Revell. The next one will be the level 5 Große Peter. And the most impressive one, for my point of view, would be this little Bismarck. Yes. These are the 3 main kits that I would recommend to basically anybody who is really into boats. However, I would not really recommend this one and this one. Reason being that these are more or less older model kits. Now, if you are prepared to do a little bit of more effort into building one, then yeah, sure, it's a nice. The 2 main ships that I was not that really impressed with were this one, the Revell, and this one, the German that I can't still pronounce, so I'm not gonna even bother. These 2 are okay if you know that what you're getting yourself into, but if you're not really into the whole sanding and puttying, then don't really bother. This one, on the other hand, although it's older, it's still surprisingly well made. So even though it's a 40-year-old model, it still holds this pizzazz, or its appeal, at least to me, because of my childhood experience with Revell. So yes, Harbour Tug Boat, why the hell not? The last would be the German U-Boat that has the full interior. That is pretty good, I must admit, but I didn't pick it as a favorite simply because it's a little bit too daunting to put together, at least from my point of view. But if you're really into submarines or boats, then yeah, sure, I would recommend that as well. So, thank you very much for watching if you have been. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, and just being cool and awesome. And I'll see you again soon in the next one. Bye-bye!